All right, folks, what we're going to do today in this particular lesson is we're going to learn about trigonometric identities. Now, everybody has to do trigonometric identities in pre-calculus, and they can be very frustrating. I am only going to go so far. In some pre-calculus or trigonometry classes, the professors will go extremely deep on trigonometric identities. But I want you to understand why trigonometric identities exist. Why do we learn them? And I think if you understand why we learn them, you'll be comfortable with your goals in mathematical knowledge. You are one of two people. You can categorize yourself in one of two ways, and I'm going to explain that. You are either somebody who is taking pre-calculus simply because it is a requirement. You do not plan to have a deeply mathematical future. The degree you're going to get, if you're deciding to get a degree, is not going to be highly math related, okay? That's the first person, the first category. The second category is a person who is going into a deeply math-related field. You're getting a degree in math. You may even plan to get a PhD in math. Your whole future is filled with math. That could also be true if you're getting a degree in computer engineering or in any other kind of engineering field, okay? Computer programming, that sort of thing. Your future is one that is full and deeply engrossed in math, okay? You are one of those two people. If you are the first person, then this is probably the last time that you'll ever see trigonometric identities. Trigonometric identities is just going to be a requirement that you have in your pre-calculus class. It'll make a brief appearance in a calculus class if you have to take Calculus 1, okay? If you're going into a math-related field, your whole future is full of trigonometric identities. This is just the introduction. You are at the doorstep to a future that is full of seeing trigonometric identities every day of your professional life. You'll see it again when you get to Calc 1, and then when you get to Calc 2, it's going to explode, and there's going to be trigonometric identities everywhere. And then for the rest of your education and for the rest of your professional career, possibly depending on what your professional career is, you will see lots and lots and lots of trigonometric identities. Trigonometric identities are amazing. I'm going to admit it. They are incredible. Understanding trigonometry and the trig functions opens up a world of knowledge that is so interesting and even entertaining in some ways. So if you get excited about mathematical knowledge, trigonometric identities will make that excitement even greater. So if you're the second kind of person, pay close attention. You are really going to want to dig deep into trigonometric identities. There are many of them. Dare I say hundreds, even thousands of trigonometric identities. We are only going to focus on maybe about 30 of them, okay? And I'm going to want you, regardless of which category you're in, I'm going to want you to memorize about 30 trigonometric identities, okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to get a piece of paper. It can have lines on it, or it doesn't have to have lines. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that piece of paper and you are going to break it up into 6 equal parts. You want to go kind of cut it in half this way. You can fold it if you want to, but then I want you to do cut it into here and here. So for the most part, you have 6 equal parts. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over 6 categories. I'm only going to give you 6 categories of trigonometric identities. If you memorize those 6 categories, then you will fulfill your requirement if you're the person who does not have math in their future. If you're the person who does have a lot of math in their future, then these 6 categories of trigonometric identities will become the foundation for your future understanding of being able to solve a lot of mathematical problems, okay? So we've got 6 categories. And what we're going to do in the rest of this first segment of this lesson is we're going to be up here in this corner. We are going to do, here I want you to put in there a heading, basic. We're just going to briefly review 6 basic trigonometric identities for the 6 trigonometric ratios or trigonometric functions. Okay, you've already seen these. We're just going to review them right now. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to identify what you already understand about the basics of these 6 trigonometric functions. Now, I don't think we've actually written out sine and cosine yet, but it'll make sense when we write it out, okay? I do want to talk briefly about what the word identity means. Identity means equality. It is what it is. You know, I am Mr. Ryan, okay? So therefore I could say I, that's me, or yeah, I could put me. So who I am, me equals Mr. Ryan, okay? I am also I'm a teacher, right? Okay, so I could say that who I am, me, is equals a teacher. Now, because me is Mr. Ryan and me is also a teacher, I can also now say that Mr. Ryan is a teacher. And that's true too. So mathematically speaking, if me is Mr. Ryan and me is a teacher, then Mr. Ryan is a teacher. I can also say that me is a father. I have 2 children. Okay, so me is a father. And so I can also say that Mr. Ryan is a father. Okay, and this is the idea in math, is that when we create these identities, we can take one thing out and put something else in. Okay, and so these basic trigonometric functions are some of the most common ones. They allow you to convert one trigonometric function into another trigonometric function, and that's very important in math. Those of you who have a future full of math, you're really going to want to know these first, because you are going to do a lot of proofs in your future where you swap out one trigonometric function for another trigonometric function, because they are identities. Another great identity is we know that 1 is equal to 5 over 5. We also know that 1 is equal to 12 over 12, right? 1 is equal to anything over itself. We can also say that 1 is equal to sine of theta over sine of theta. So if we needed to, we could go anywhere in an equation where we see a 1 and we can replace it with sine of theta over sine of theta. We can also replace it with 5 over 5. Furthermore, we can say that 5 over 5 is equal to sine of theta over sine of theta. Okay, now this is getting a little crazy, but this is still true because this is equal to 1 and this is equal to 1. Okay, so that is just the idea of identity. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're just going to identify these. All we're doing is writing them down. We're not going to do really much explaining. You just need to, it's going to be something that you're going to write down and you're going to memorize. Okay, sine of theta is related to cosecant of theta. In fact, sine of theta is equal to 1 over cosecant of theta. Whenever you do 1 over something, you're basically just saying it's the reciprocal of that. Similarly, cosine is 1 over secant of theta. Now, tangent actually has 2 basic identities. One of them is that it's the reciprocal of cotangent. Actually, I'm going to write that one second. But the main one that you're going to care about is that tangent is commonly known in the math world as sine divided by cosine, or sine over cosine. So tangent can be converted into sine and cosine by simply converting it into sine over cosine. It is also the reciprocal of cotangent. All right, there we go. Cotangent, very similarly, is cosine over sine. And it is also the reciprocal of tangent. Okay, so these are 2 identities that go along with tangent and 2 identities that go along with cotangent. Now, in the very same way that cosine is 1 over secant, secant is 1 over cosine of theta. And in the very same way that sine is 1 over cosecant, cosecant is also 1 over sine. Okay? And so cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, and sine is the reciprocal of cosecant. Cosine is the reciprocal of secant, secant is the reciprocal of cosine, and the same thing with tangent and cotangent. Okay? All right, so these are your basic trigonometric identities. You need to have these memorized, very important. What I recommend you do is maybe write all 6 of them down on a piece of paper, then set that piece of paper aside and try to write them down again without looking, okay? Until you can write all 6 of these down without looking at all, and they're stuck in your brain, okay? All right, let's now move on to the next set of trigonometric identities.